Today, I have a really interesting guest, someone whose expertise is incredibly relevant to the way risk is evolving. Security today isn't just physical, it's digital, it's behavioral, it's AI driven, and the threats are moving faster than ever. So I want to bring in someone who truly understands that landscape. James McQuiggan has spent nearly 2 decades in enterprise security, including senior roles at Siemens, focused on product and operational security in global energy environments. He's delivered hundreds of presentations on cybersecurity, social engineering, AI threats, and what he calls closing the awareness to action gap, helping organizations turn people from their biggest vulnerability into their strongest defense. James, welcome to Security Equation.
Great. Thanks a lot, Dan. Excited to be here and chat all things cyber.
It's an area that admittedly most of us hear about, but really don't understand. And I do want to get into that. Before we do, let's go back, way back. How did you get into this line of work, and what did you think you'd be when you were younger?
Some people like to joke and say I took a left turn the wrong way. But for me, a lot of it started in my first career when I was working in theater. I was on the technical side. I've always been interested in the electronics, the computers, the technical stuff. And while theater was wonderful and I truly enjoyed it as a passion, it wasn't the lifestyle I wanted to have. So I got back into computers, and eventually down the road, after working for a help desk for a number of years, I got working at Siemens and pretty well did anything and everything under the sun there when it came to IT roles, programming, building systems, networking, doing network security. It led me to compliance, which then led me to cybersecurity, where I had the pleasure to work with two folks in Siemens that were in charge of product security and corporate security overall, where what was real interesting was I discovered that security people have all the best stories. And that, I will be honest, that's what drew me in, was like, oh my gosh, the stories, especially the boss that I had in the corporate security office, Sarah. She was a former police officer out of the UK. Now handling corporate security for Siemens. And I learned a lot about the physical security aspects, as well as I was studying then to do the cybersecurity, looking at compliance. And so that was back in 2007, 2008, when I got my CISSP, which is the gold standard for cybersecurity, the Certified Information System Security Professional certification. And that really changed my life at that point and made me realize, being in cybersecurity, had some great stories, get to hear from fantastic people, but also where I discovered my other passion of educating people, which led me to the role that I had at KnowBe4, where I was going out and educating people, talking with people, providing thought leadership on all different types of topics in cybersecurity, but still at the same time, keeping in touch with the folks that did the physical security. I did the FBI Citizens Academy in 2014, which was just an extreme eye-opener in regards to the life of an FBI agent, but also physical security, law enforcement, and everything as well. And so now when I see certain things going on, like looking at big, huge events, whether it's conferences or at a stadium or, concerts and those kind of things, I'm always looking out and seeing, well, security's there, cameras there, exits there, but always keeping an eye on, always keeping an eye on the outs, but seeing where security is all around us. And if it's done well, people don't notice, right?
Right. We're in the event space and are involved in quite a few. What's the cyber risk for the event industry, if you had to summarize it?
I think, and I was thinking about this earlier after looking at, I was looking at your LinkedIn page and thinking about that. And essentially, when you're looking at cyber risk, and we've had similar incidents. I can think of back to a Super Bowl a number of years ago. I think it was Baltimore, where they had a power outage in the facility.
Yeah.
I meant whether that was related to cyber or not, but there's always going to be that concern that you're going to have somebody that's going to try to hack the SCADA systems or the control systems or
Right.
the electronic systems or the computers that are there, for an event. And just like any other organization, they're having to look at the risk of insider threat, external threats. If you've got a camera crew coming around, interviewing people inside of an operations center, and they're on the wall behind them is the Wi-Fi username and password. It kind of
Right.
makes a big problem, and we've seen that. I almost
For sure.
joke about it, but we've seen that happen before. So it's what it comes down to, and for me, it comes down to the human. And I know the same is in your space as well. You have the people that are coming into the event space. You have people that are working it. And the same thing with regards to organizations and that risk. Your humans, your people, they're also part of the risk as well. And this is where I've done a lot of the education, is making sure that users are aware of the dangers of what can go wrong inside the organization. Email is the biggest one, because anybody that has an email address for your organization, whether you're a major league sports team, whether you're a concert venue, whatever it may be, but if anybody has an email address to your organization, they have a key to the front door. And we always make sure the physical security doors are closed, cameras are on. But with email, unless you've got monitoring constantly going on and you're monitoring what's coming through, cyber criminals can send a very convincing email into your users. And if they fall victim to it, usually through an emotional response, you're going to have somebody click on that link and they're going to open up the door. And you may or may not be aware of it. So your risks are coming at you from all different sides, just like we have with cyber. It could be insider threat. It could be an external threat.
Yeah. I was involved in that Super Bowl. It was New Orleans. The lights went out at the beginning of the third quarter.
That's it. Yep.
And clearly I was in NFL control. My role then for Frank Sapovitz that ran the game I was the what if guy. I ran the tabletop. I prepared the league for the game. But when that happened, it felt like a, punch in the stomach, because you don't expect that. We knew we had power issues going into the game. And it was a switch that failed. But the first thing we all thought of is do we have a security threat here? Physical and or cyber threat. Fortunately, connected to the engineering team, immediately got information that it was an equipment failure, not a breach of any kind. But that's clearly, it goes through everybody's head. I want to come back to events and physical and cyber, but for the non-technical listener, what are the top 5, if you had to list them, cyber threats that individuals, families, and or companies should be aware of?
Yeah, for me, when it comes down to it, and family's important, and a lot of the time we try to get people to, take the lessons they learn from their security awareness training in the office and bring it home. And I see that it can be a struggle for a lot of folks, because they look at the training and they're like, okay, good, I'm done for a year. I don't have to worry about it. But when it comes down to it, for me, there's several areas. One of them, the first one, of course, as I touched upon with regards to email. Yeah. If you're getting an email and you're getting an emotional response from it, it's one of those things where you just need to kind of stop for a moment, take a breather, and then determine, okay, is this somebody I know? Am I expecting this email? Is there something in the email that's getting me to do something strange or unusual that wants me to, or in a hurried manner, that wants me to click on this link? One of the fun things, and I like to compare it to this these days, is a lot of people have those video camera doorbells. I know I do. And I love it, because now if my doorbell rings and I'm not expecting Amazon or a pizza guy or a friend to show up, I'm opening up that app and I'm looking at it, because I'm not expecting somebody. I want to see who it is, whether it's somebody like a vendor, a solicitor, or God bless them, the Girl Scout cookies. Girl Scouts are coming around trying to sell cookies. But I take that moment just to kind of verify who it is. And the same thing with email as well, because nowadays, for years, we always used to say, check the spelling, check the grammar, because cyber criminals, nation states, the attackers, English wasn't their first language. And so there'd be spelling mistakes or grammar. That all's gone away now because of AI. They're able to write those perfectly crafted, well-written emails that drive emotion, that get folks to click on it. So first one is regards to email and not clicking on links or being aware if you're of certain events are coming through. If they're trying to get you to do something like the romance scams, they're trying to build up a rapport with you. It's okay to be a little bit cynical and to question it.
Right.
The second thing, and this is probably one that everyone will roll their eyes on, is our passwords. When it comes to social media, our finances, accounts that have our name, our address, phone number, very sensitive information about us, we want to make sure that we're using different passwords for every account, and strong ones, uppercase, lowercase, the numbers, having it 20 characters. And I know people are going, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? I got to remember a 20-character password. For me, and I've been using for the last 15 years, it's now a habit, is a password manager.
Yeah.
And I've used it in my family. My wife uses it. When she creates a new account, she's like, hey, I put it in Dashlane, because that's what we use. Shameless plug, sorry. But it's even funnier now, and you'll get a kick out of this, Dan, is when your kids call up asking for the Hulu password or the Disney or Netflix password, I tell them it's in the password manager, and they got to go access that, and they can get it there.
Right.
I get the eye roll, but at the same time, they go, okay, fine. They know that it's important to store all those passwords in that password manager. So that's the second thing when it comes to, things to be aware of. The other thing is, and this is usually done by your computer, but it's always a good idea to make sure your systems are up to date. Your smartphone is up to date, your tablets, your computers. A lot of the time that's automatically done, but sometimes on devices, we may hold off because there's usually features that are in there that it's trying to fix.
Right.
And so by going through and making sure your software is up to date, that goes a long way in keeping that device protected. So you've got your email, you got your password manager, you've got your software. If you're doing those three, that takes care of a lot of the issues that are out there, because cyber criminals are always going after the human. They're usually trying passwords that we've used over and over again, because there's been so many data breaches. There's billions of passwords out there on the internet where people can download, cyber criminals can download and have your old password. So, a password you may have used on LinkedIn a few years ago when it was involved in a breach, well, that password's now exposed, and you need to make sure that you're not using those same passwords. And there's services out there that can alert you when your password has been involved in a data breach. Some of the password managers have a service that does it. But staying aware of the data breaches also. That way, if your password is compromised, all you have to do is change one password. And the password manager is very good at being able to generate those passwords for you. And it's a habit that has to be formed. If you're not using a password manager, it's something you got to start using, get it installed. Now, I'll even be respectful of the fact that there are people out there that are just can't handle one more app. And they're more than happy to write it down. And if that's the case, fine, but keep that notebook safe. Keep it in a desk drawer, keep it locked, and let somebody in your family know, because in the event something happens, at least then they can find it. But a lot of the time it's going to take care of, if you take care of those three things, that's going to go a long way to keeping you secure.
Well, I'm partially compliant and partially guilty. I use the same password manager, but I don't let it generate the password. I still have my formula for passwords. They're not all they're always different, but that long 20 character password, it's like mind boggling. What happens when you click the link? Like am I providing access to my business network, my home network? What's the actual risk of clicking the link?
So depending on where you are, if you're on your Wi-Fi at home or you're on your Wi-Fi at the office, what you're doing is when you click on that link, any link you click on the internet, what you're doing is you're connecting to somebody else's computer, somebody's computer that has the web page and the code that gets downloaded to your computer and then is running. And because the link, there's no checks on that. Now, you may have antivirus on your system and it will scan for things that it knows about. That's the thing about antivirus systems, is it's only good for what it knows. So if the cyber criminals have got software or been able to create software that's not detected by the various antivirus, and they've gone out and bought them themselves, because that's how they evade it, is they go out and they buy it, they use it, and they try their malware, malicious software against it to see what gets through. So once they know their software can get through and get onto your computer, because now essentially it's like opening up that door, you're letting them in on your computer. They have plenty of software and programs and tools in their toolkits, essentially, where they can now move laterally within your network. Now on your home network, depending on how you've got that set up, they may try to just work from your machine to try to send out emails. Or if you're on a corporate network, for them, that's a gold mine, because now they're going to start working around your business network. And depending on how many systems you've got, if you've got a server, that's storing sensitive data, they're going to look to try to get in there. And, essentially what they're looking for is to try to get access to your email systems, because they want to create their own email, because you're a valued and trusted partner, whether you're providing a service or you've got people connecting with you. If they can create a email that is a legitimate email for your organization, now they can start emailing suppliers and vendors that you have, because they're going to be able to look things up once they've got access to your email system and your computer. And then they can start sending off emails pretending to come from your organization saying, we've had a change with our banking records. Here's the new ACH.
Right.
And, look to try to circumvent that.
I'll give you one, and you can bill me later for this. Almost every new employee in our organization, when they get issued an email address, gets an email from me asking for, go out and buy $600 worth of Apple gift cards.
Oh, yeah.
And we actually had a new employee fall for it.
Okay.
It's now part of our own onboarding.
Right.
When you start with us, you're going to get this email. But I'm not sure how it started. How do I stop it?
How do you stop now sending out that gift card email?
Well, however it's getting generated, it's getting sent. And it's almost like clockwork. A new employee, i.e. a new email address gets, from our
created.
Multiple domains. We've got 5 different domains for our 5 different companies, but nonetheless, they still get one. And I don't know how it's happening.
Usually a lot of the time that they work is they're looking at, believe it or not, LinkedIn. And if you've got people that have joined and are now putting on there, hey, I've now joined Stratoscope, and there's that nice, lovely banner and post that you get from LinkedIn, the cyber criminals look at that and they already know what your email style is, whether it's first name, last name, or so forth. So now they just generate the email, pretend to be you. But if they're pretending to be you, there are security settings that you can implement on your email server. It's called DKIM, DMARC. And what's called SPF, which is basically a verification of your email that it can't be spoofed. And essentially, and a lot of people don't realize it, but it's basically a 15-minute job. You know, by an IT person. You get your IT person, they can implement those settings. And now what happens is your email address is verified. People can't spoof it. They can't pretend to be you. Because what it is they're pretending to have your email address, but because you don't have a validation, it's very easy for them to spoof it and then just create those emails. And what they see on the display line is that it comes from Dan Donovan, not whatever email address they've created on the back end. So doing that reduces a lot of those headaches. And and then hopefully your users aren't getting the gift card email. But now you have to be careful because of deepfakes that are out there. They could pretend to call up and pretend to be you on the phone, asking them to, transfer money or do whatever.
We've gotten, some people have gotten a text message. So Joe Hegland, now I'm going to find out if our director of IT actually listens to my podcast. And so Joe Hegland, if you're listening, now you know what needs to go happen with my email. And I'm not going to tell him directly. I'm going to wait to see if he actually is listening.
Sorry, Joe.
Yeah, exactly. What's the one misconception about cybersecurity?
One of the biggest misconceptions is a lot of the time people feel like we're just grumpy old people, and that we're always going to say no. Ironically, as security, when we want to implement something, a lot of the times it's, hey, can we set up this here and, set up this camera here or set up this tent here or whatever. And a lot of the time, from a security standpoint, we may look at it and go, yeah, no, because you're blocking an entrance or doing whatever. Right. So let's compromise and work somewhere. And a lot of the time when it comes to cybersecurity, a lot of people think, oh, well, I want to start using cloud systems or I want to start using ChatGPT. And all the time, the cybersecurity guys say no. And a lot of the time for us, it's a matter of the fact that we need to work with the business and not focus so much on the fact that we're looking at the bits and the bytes, the ones and the zeros, the firewalls and all that, the technical aspect. We have to make sure that we're working with the business to keep them educated. Right. And at the same time, working to make sure that they're aware and give them that culture mindset rather, just like you would have a culture mindset for safety, making sure things are locked out, making sure signs are displayed properly, areas are well lit. Same thing when it comes to cybersecurity. People are aware of the fact that, hey, if you stand up this AWS server, and I don't mean to get too Greek with everybody, right. But if I want to have this server and load data onto it, we have to make sure that it's secured properly versus just going, yeah, no, you can't do it. It's a matter of having that security people need to work with the business versus just going, nope.
It's a good one because there is that apprehension. Like I'd rather not, not my role now, but there were times when I was within organization, I'd say like, oh, let's just not include them. Let's just get it done. Let's talk about bridging the gap of physical security and cybersecurity because I feel like this is something we've been talking about for a lot of years, especially in our industry. And I don't know that we've made much progress on bridging that gap. What needs to happen? How do we bridge the gap, or do we need to? Is it truly two separate verticals that we have to have specific expertise involved in?
I've known a number of people over the years that have overseen the physical security and the cybersecurity, and they're both dealing with risk, right? That was your first question to me. They're both dealing with risk, either physical risk or electronic cyber risk. And risk management, enterprise risk management, the concepts still apply. It's just either it's electronic or it's a physical asset that we're dealing with. And so there's that collaborative opportunity there because you've got people that are only looking at it the physical sense, and then you've got people that only look at it the electronic sense. But there can be opportunities where if you have a director or whoever that's overseeing both, that they're going to need to have to wear three hats. They've got to wear the hat for the physical, the cyber or electronic, but then also the business as well. And so that always is a balancing act for them. But I believe you can have both teams working together, basically sharing experiences, sharing, you've got physical that has to protect the cyber anyway. So there has to be a collaboration because physical is going to want to set up PZT cameras outside while they've got to get recorded. They're coming back to a digital recorder. So you're going to have to collaborate and work with, and then have access controls in that. Also with your badges that you may have for doors, there's access controls that go with that and procedures and the policies that will come out of that. And so, yeah, I feel there is a commonality between both teams that can work together. And if it's under the one leadership, it makes things a lot easier rather than you've got your physical guys going, hey, we got to install these cameras. And now we got to go through the hoops and change management and whatever to go talk to the IT guys and cyber guys to take care of it. But
Right.
if your security aspects are under one, that makes things a lot easier. And as it was when I worked at Siemens, and my boss handled both.
Right. Does the physical security professional need to learn more about cyber, or does the cybersecurity professional need to learn more about physical? Who's more behind in this game?
Wow, that could get me in trouble. For years, everybody's using a computer. Everybody's got email. I think a lot of the time, I know for me, and it's going to depend on the person's experience. For me, when I got into our corporate security office, I had to learn the physical side. I knew about locks and badges and stuff like that, but actually going through and doing an audit on a facility and what to look for, looking at the doors and looking at the entry logs and checking, make sure doors lock properly. Yet at the same time, from a cyber standpoint, you had people that were physical people that had to learn the cyber. In general, I think it's a strong mix that both sides have to learn each other's if they're going to, be working together.
Right.
A lot of the times I think people will just think, oh, the security guards, they've got their email. They have to learn the cyber aspects of it as well and have that security culture. They've already got a security culture mindset on the physical. We just now have to educate them on the electronic aspects. And right. I think the same thing would apply to a cybersecurity folks if they're working with, physical security, like the cameras, the badge readers, and everything else, is having that, again, that risk mindset, that physical mindset with regards to, how to protect the perimeter of an organization. One's electronic and one is, physical.
What is the awareness action gap? You've been known to use that phrase.
So I'm gonna ask you a fun question. I'm gonna flip it here on for you for a second, just because it helps make the point. Do you drive on the highway, Dan, to go to work? Yeah.
Yep.
What's the speed limit usually?
Let's say 65.
Okay. What are you usually doing?
Well, I don't want to incriminate myself here. But,
yeah, you're going to plead the fifth without incriminating yourself. So based off of that response, you know what the speed limit is, yet you're still going faster.
Right.
You're aware. Now, what makes us slow down? When we see a cop, because that's, we're trying to avoid getting a ticket. That's the awareness gap, is the fact that people are aware. They do the security awareness training, but the problem is it's done like the way that certain people come to visit us every year, like the Easter Bunny and Santa Claus and maybe a tooth fairy. It needs to be done more frequently. It needs to be something where it's not just a once a year exercise. It has to be something where it's continually throughout the year, because people are aware. They're like, yeah, okay, fine, whatever. I know the speed limit's 65, but I'm going to do 75 because I got somewhere to be. And the person in the left lane doesn't need to be there because they're going too slow. So that awareness is there, especially from a cybersecurity standpoint. People go through the training, they're just not remembering it. And it's not becoming a part of the culture. They're not doing things that are forming habits, like using a password manager or taking the time when it comes to email. And you get a weird one that comes in that it's like, okay, now I need to take the time. So when we look at awareness gap, it's, yes, you've got the training. Oh, forget it. I'm not going to worry about it, or I'll just keep using the same password. I've never been hacked, so I'm fine in that sense. So looking at it that way, it's a matter of being able to close that, so that way people are more aware. It's part of their habits and part of that culture.
You mentioned deepfakes earlier. You know, deepfake, synthetic media. I watch a lot of different AI things, and I see what AI can do, and it could create a video of me in no time.
I can do it in 4 minutes.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
How do we protect on the deepfake front, right? Like, there's people in very senior roles in organizations that if one of their staff members gets this phone call, could be my team, could be my controller. and she hears my voice and I tell her to wire, $1 million to James because we got to get this done right now, she could easily fall for that.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what's happening?
That's what we've seen happen already once. Now, different culture. We're talking about in Hong Kong, different culture, different hierarchy, the way they respect who their leadership is in an organization. But you had somebody that wired out $25 million in 15 different types of transactions. That was extremely sophisticated. That started with text messages, phone calls, video chat of not only just the CFO, but the CEO. Chat. They then did a video chat. Yeah. Wow. So you now could see the person. Now, from what I understand was they would come in clear and then it'd be distorted. You had other people, the lighting was bad, but you could tell that the names were there, and he knew enough of either the CEO and the CFO to believe it, because it was the CFO that was his boss. And so you could have it distorted video. It could come in just enough for him to see it and believe it, and then go, the connection's real bad. I'm going to drop off. I'll call you right back. And they carry on the conversation. So it's a matter of building up that rapport. And personally, when I do a lot of presentations on synthetic media and on deepfakes, and I used to use a variety of different tools that would take me, I could do one in about 10 minutes. That was the quickest it took me. I've now used AI and had it create the code and build me an application where all I do is I give it a video or a YouTube link and a script, and it generates the deepfake video for me in 4 minutes.
It's amazing.
Oh yeah, it's incredible. I mean, the fact that I don't code, I know enough about programming to be dangerous, but I don't code, and to get AI to generate that code and program for me, it was great. But being able to create those deep fakes, those are video ones. I've also got it. So with a high end enough of a system and a graphics card in your computer, I can do face swaps, which is what they were doing. And that's where we're seeing it with synthetic identities, where you've got nation states creating false, real fake identities. What they're doing is they're stealing identities here in the US and then remaking it to be theirs, and then going and applying for jobs. So, holy cow, now you're scaring us, because 4 minutes to make a deep fake, yes, your employee could be called up. So what it comes down to, and it's almost simple, but it takes, again, a habit. It takes that mindset. One of the things that we've seen, and it's been very effective, and this happened to Ferrari, where the CEO, and I do that in air quotes because it wasn't the real CEO, called up the CFO to say, hey, got to pay a vendor, need you to get this done now. I'm getting on an airplane, blah, blah, blah. The CFO, kind of listening, wasn't quite sure, then goes, what was the name of that book you lent me that you recommended to me the other day? Because I want to go get a copy. The scammer said no clue, and the call ended. So it comes down to questioning. Again, being a little cynical is okay, especially with what we're seeing on video, with audio, with deepfake videos. I mean, you had out of Ireland, you had one of the candidates running for the prime minister. Somebody created a deepfake of her saying she was stepping down out of the election. Could you imagine if that happened over here with what's been going on? Now, you may get people that fall for it, but then depending on the quality of the video, but it's getting better. But it comes down to being curious. If you've got somebody that's interviewing for a remote position and you're doing a video call and there's something not quite right, one of the things that I've learned about is the fact that ask about where they went to school, ask about if they're working in a particular location or where they live. Ask about like a favorite restaurant. Ask about something about a sports team, because that apparently trips them up. Right. There was an instance where I saw somebody was applying. They said they were born and raised in Dallas, Texas. And the question asked was, what did they think of the fact that the Cowboys were struggling this year? And there was a click of the keyboard, a bit of a delay. And he came back and said, yeah, the Cowboys are having a tough time wrangling up the cows and getting them into the barn. We knew at that point, yeah, no, we know this is not who they say they are. But by asking a question about their local area, through them. And when you talk about Dallas and you talk about the Cowboys, even if you're not into sports,
right,
you know who the Cowboys are. Right. So
is the best practice then for a company, even a family, to have a phrase, to have a set question? If you ever get one of these phone calls, ask me about Mankato State
You
football.
can do that. A lot of the time, it's just easier because if it's really happening, let's say, and one of the common things that happens is you've got the parents get a phone call from their teenage or college student, and they've been in a car accident and they're distraught and they're crying and they're freaking out. And then this guy gets on the phone and says, your daughter hit my car. There's damage to it, but I'm okay. Rather than just exchange insurance, why don't you guys just give me $2,500? That'll take care of it. And we'll go on our way. And that way we don't have to get the insurance involved. And the daughter comes back on the phone and she's hysterical and they're talking to her. If that really happened, trying to remember a code word for the daughter, being the daughter distraught, you know what it's like being in a car. If you know what it's like being in a car accident, you may or may not remember the keyword. However, if the daughter, was at university, you could go, hey, you could ask a question that she's going to very well remember that may not be like public information that's out there, know. And it could be something where, it was great having you home for dinner the other night. What was that ingredient you put in the stew that made it taste so good? I mean, you just got to ask a question that that they are only going to know. If it's legit, then they'll answer it appropriately. If they come back, oh, I don't know, I was too, I don't remember cooking and blah, blah, blah. Then it's not going to really be that person. Questions do a lot better than code words. Okay. I think code words are great as long as whoever is involved is not distraught or freaking out or upset or whatever else. Right. I know for me, I have a lot of cousins. I have a number of them here in the U.S., and we all remember a movie as kids, and there was a key phrase from that movie. And I've gotten messages from them a couple of times that just seem really weird, and I'll turn around and I'll give the question from that movie. Yeah. And a couple of times they've come back and said, it's really me, James. I'm like, no, give me the answer. And then they give me the answer. So, so even then that even works on text messages or audio deepfakes if it's happening. But it just goes back to having that little bit of cynicism, a little bit of paranoia. That's okay, especially with the audio and the video synthetic capabilities that are going on now today. I mean, with Gemini, with Sora, it's very easy to be able to create a deepfake of somebody and put it out there. And now you're dealing with disinformation campaigns as well.
Where are you on the spectrum of this is all going to ruin humanity? All this AI. Because look, this is all very easy to do. Yeah. And it's going to create probably more cynicism between humans. And I can only imagine that these deepfake type attacks are just going to keep going up in volume. Where are you on the spectrum? We're providing too many tools.
Yeah. The tools, the goodness behind all of this with AI is it allows us to kind of augment our skills, augment us, and be more efficient and proficient. We're getting, a downside of these deep fakes and getting a lot easier. And I think as more and more people become aware, they're going to be able to spot them or they'll be able to question it. It's kind of like that. Let me put it this way. I'm guessing you've been to New York City.
Yeah.
In the fact that if you walk down a street in New York City, or maybe down one of the side streets, or you stumble into a back alley and somebody opens up his jacket and goes, hey, I got tickets for Wicked or a Louis Vuitton bag or whatever else, Rolex watch. You want to buy one? You'd be like, nah, I'm good. Because you've learned and And I think as a society, we're going to get better at being able to recognize it or kind of go, yeah, I don't quite believe it. Let me go verify somewhere else, or let me go check another source and see what's happening, or if that's really, really true overall. I have a feeling, especially with the political climate in the U.S., we might see more of that as we get closer. I mean, you throw back to February of 2 years ago, 2 years ago now, where you had a recording of President Joe Biden being, telling people not to go vote to all the Republicans that were, and it wasn't even their vote or whatever. Anyway, but the guy who created it did it in about 10 minutes and spent $20, and there was plenty of audio of that person out there. There's plenty of audio of me and video of me out there.
Sure.
That I know that I could easily be deepfaked or synthetic. And my family knows, hey, look, I'm out there. I'm not a popular one like, the president or a celebrity, but my likeness and video and audio, like this podcast, is going to be out there. And so we have to have that, thought process of going, well, hang on a second. Is this really James saying this? Can we verify it and so forth? And so, I mean, it's funny on the Sora app, which is the Chat GPT deep video generator app, you can use likenesses of different people, mainly people that have passed on. But Sam Altman, the CEO, owner of OpenAI and ChatGPT, he's put himself out there. So people are making millions of deepfake videos of him, which if you think about is genius, because if he was involved in any type of crime, he goes, yeah, that's not me. That's a deepfake. Because look, here's all these other. I mean, that's kind of the humor in with it right there. But, he'd made himself available for it.
It's it's mind-boggling. What's the first thing someone should do if they feel like they've been hacked, they clicked the wrong link, or one of these deepfake things happens to them? What actions do they take?
Usually, if you've clicked on a link in an email and it brings you to a weird website, things start happening, pop-ups, your computer starts acting weird, slow, or whatever else, there is a possibility that, yes, you could have been infected with some type of malicious software. The best option to do at that point is to make sure you can back up all your data, your pictures, your documents, your email, or whatever, and get your computer reinstalled. If you don't have an IT person, you don't have a grandkid that can come over and do that repair for you, a trip to Best Buy is usually a good thing. Or maybe you've got a local computer shop in town. But nowadays, Windows is making it a lot easier. You can go in and click start and type reset PC and it'll reformat it for you, and restore it for you. But usually if you've been infected, that's the thing to do. If you click on the link and the window pops up and you close it out right away, you're probably okay. You're going to want to run maybe a virus scan just to make sure that there isn't anything weird happening. Sometimes people load a second one on there as well. There's other services that you can run to check. But for the most part, if you catch it quick enough, like any other event, you can neutralize it and get it taken care of. If it ends up festering and taking a while, then it becomes problematic. If you're dealing with deepfakes, if you get a phone call and somebody needs money and you end up giving them a credit card, well, you got to cancel that credit card right away. We had I've had family members where they sadly, even though we've talked many, many times, the elderly family members have fallen victim to getting a phone call. Actually, what it was, they got a pop-up on their computer with a phone number to call Microsoft because of a virus they had on their computer. This goes to the sophistication. They had the mindset to go, wait, James has always said, don't believe anything that pops up on my computer. Goes and Googles the Microsoft number and the number matches. So they were able to, SEO the website that they had with that number to make them line up. And then when he called, essentially he ended up giving over bank information and a credit card. So he had to go change his bank accounts. He had to cancel the credit card and reissue that. We changed the passwords on a lot of his accounts on his computer, because if you give somebody access into your computer and you've saved passwords in the browser, that's open game for them. They can steal the passwords out of the browser. You want to use a legitimate password manager, Bitwarden, 1Password, Dashlane, whatever, insert your favorite one there, research it.
Right.
But the Apple passwords I think is okay. I haven't seen anything where it's not okay, but I like a separate application from the operating system because the password manager if you've got the Apple one, it's tied in with the operating system based off the same biometrics or password.
Right.
So I like to have that separate one, separation of duties. Right. From a security standpoint, we know what that is. So if you end up storing your passwords in a browser, you want to get them out of there, because if you do get cyber criminals get in on your system, they're going to be able to steal all that and do it within seconds.
It's good advice. The current news that's dominating the news networks is around Nancy Guthrie, Savannah's mom, out in Arizona. Yeah. From a cyber perspective, like you go back to that Nest camera, all of that stuff. What would you have advised that family to do in advance or not? Is there something that could have helped prevent, just from a technology perspective, non-physical, but from cyber?
I'm going to admit I haven't followed the story intensely. I know of what's happening. I know the mother was abducted in the evening. I know they've got Ring camera footage. For me, she had a camera on the outside. If somebody goes to break into the house and they have the tools, they're going to break in. Right. You're now, you can look at it from a physical as well as that cyber standpoint. Whether or not, if they were wearing an Apple Watch or they still had their phone with them, I get the impression that they didn't get anything. Well, they were talking about the pacemaker. That's right.
Yeah.
And that they were able to, and this is what I found out was really fascinating, but it's accurate, is the fact that the Bluetooth on that pacemaker is emitting a frequency, and essentially they can put up helicopters with a wider antenna, because usually Bluetooth is only good for about 30 meters.
Right.
But there they could go up and leverage being able to, track the pacemaker. Now, the kicker to this is you start getting into privacy issues, and privacy kind of somewhat falls a little bit under cybersecurity sometimes, in the fact that, okay, now somebody can track me wherever I go. Do we want that? I mean, you look at GDPR, and that's a different, it's
a huge topic, right? Like, yeah. But I'm carrying a smartphone. I've basically given up that level of security, haven't I?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if they were able to, and even with the person coming in wearing the mask, they can still pinpoint vertices on the face for where the nose is and how the nose is constructed. And so they can look at it from that technology standpoint, whether or not you'd have more cameras around the house. Yep. You could have lights that are their motion sensor. So if somebody was coming.
What about the crypto and the Bitcoin? There was these claims, if you make this deposit, I'll tell you more about where she is. Do the agencies have the ability to track these Bitcoin wallets and know that was, Dan Donovan, he owns that wallet? Like I thought the whole thing about all of this, the Bitcoin world, it is more transparent from transactions.
It is. Yeah. You can tell which wallets are getting which transactions. You're just not able to fully understand. You're able to track that wallet and you can monitor it and see where you've got people that are trying to do withdrawals or changes, and then go pinpoint that. But basically with Bitcoin is you're not dealing with a central repository. You're dealing with all these different wallets. You're dealing with all these different exchanges. It's like having multiple banks but being able to do the transactions. So yeah, they're able to see the money being moved around. It's just a matter of then being able to tie down, that particular wallet belongs to Dan or to James or whoever. Yeah.
It's very interesting. James, this has been enlightening. I clearly my director of IT has to listen, and we're going to see if he did. And I think my controller is going to have to listen, because she's going to come back to me, I hope, with hey, we're going to put this in place. But I really appreciate your time. It's very, very enlightening. So thank you very much.
My pleasure.